Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 stocks that I would consider buying in the event of Joe Biden winning the election next week. And just to start off this video, this isn't financial advice, and even if we see Joe Biden win the election, it doesn't mean that these stocks are just automatically going to go up. So you have to do your own research and consult your own financial advisor. Now, before we start the video, I want to say I found these stocks using the methods in my free investment guide where I show you how to find undervalued stocks. It's completely free and it's the first link in the description, so be sure to check that out if you want to know how I find undervalued stocks like these. All right, so I have some pretty interesting stocks in here, so let's get right into it. The first stock that I would consider buying if Biden wins the election is Canadian Solar. Their ticker is CSIQ, and Canadian Solar is a Canadian solar company, obviously. So we can take a look at Joe Biden's plan. And so obviously Joe Biden is for renewable energy, investing in wind, solar, other renewables to be able to become less dependent on fossil fuels. So we can take a look at what Joe Biden's vision is. This is straight from his website, and this is really what it boils down to. Biden's climate and environmental justice proposal will make an investment of $1.7 trillion over the next 10 years, and will also leverage additional private sector and state and local investments to more than $5 trillion. So obviously, if Biden does follow through with these plans, we should see a pretty big boom in the solar energy space. And I've looked at a few solar companies, but the problem with most solar companies right now is that they're too hyped up. They're already priced in for a Biden win and massive spending to boost up the solar sector. And so this stock is one of the only solar stocks I found that was actually pretty fairly valued. If we take a look at some of their metrics, their forward PE is 11. They're expected to grow at 20% a year, so that makes their PEG ratio under a 0.5, which looks very attractive. And this is after the stock has run up a bunch. The stock was under $15 back in March, and now we're sitting at just under 40. And despite that, the stock is still undervalued compared to a lot of the other stocks in the sector. So here we are on Guru Focus, taking a look at Canadian Solar. And just to take a look at the comparative rankings, we can look at the valuation rank versus the industry. And based on price to earnings, we can take a look at price to book, price to sales, and price to cash flow, operating cash flow, and free cash flow. This company is one of the cheapest solar companies on the market. And you're not giving up quality either. We can take a look. The return on equity is 18%, which is very good. They have a nice return on assets, and their margin is 10%, which isn't bad. So I think that yes, even though we have seen the stock over double in the past few months, I still think this stock is undervalued relative to the rest of the solar market right now. And because of that, if we do see Joe Biden win and start to put these policies that favor solar companies in place, this is a stock that I would consider buying. All right, so the next stock that I would be thinking of buying has to do with Joe Biden's economic plan. And Joe Biden and the Democrats have said that they want to come out with more massive stimulus. Here's an article that says Biden has a $4 trillion economic plan, and that could pass as early as late January if he wins the election. And this is some of the stuff he would do. He would have an infrastructure deal, invest in manufacturing, clean energy, which we just talked about, and then unemployment benefits and helping small businesses and entrepreneurs. And so there's one big problem with this, right? Increased government spending for all these things, sounds good, but where are they going to get the money from? And Biden says he's going to raise taxes, but the odds are he's not going to raise enough in taxes to be able to cover all the spending. So they're going to have to resort to what the government has been doing a lot of lately, which is quantitative easing by the Federal Reserve, otherwise known as money printing. And here's the chart that shows where I'm going with this. The blue line is the money supply going back all the way to 1975, and the red line is the gold price. And there's a pretty clear relationship, even though gold is volatile and has upswings and downswings. Overall, it very closely tracks the overall money supply. And under Joe Biden, I don't think it's a reach to say that the money supply is going to increase at a rate we probably haven't seen before. And so to take advantage of this, you could buy any stock. You could buy a gold miner ETF or just the GLD gold ETF itself. But here is a gold stock that I've had my eye on for a while. It is Kirkland Lake Gold, and they are a Canadian gold miner, as most gold miners are. We can take a look at the Rule 1 website, and this is one of the highest quality gold miners that I've seen, where this company has outstanding growth rates going back 10 years. Their book value has been growing at 38% a year. Earnings per share growth has stayed positive even through that massive bear market in gold back in 2014, 2015. And also nice operating cash flow growth, especially in the last 5 years, growing at over 100% a year. Also, very clean balance sheet, zero debt, and the return on invested capital has remained high throughout its history, which shows that the management knows how to manage the company. Now, if we take a look at some other metrics, obviously, in terms of profitability, this is among the best in the industry. You can take a look at financial strength, also very good, where they have almost no debt. And if we take a look at valuations, this company is valued in line with most other gold miners right now. Obviously, we saw a huge run up in the price of gold since the March lows, and gold miners have been up along with that. But the interesting thing about this stock is that even though it's valued fairly in terms of other gold miners, compared to its own history, it looks relatively undervalued, trading at 15 times earnings, where if you take a look, the median valuation of this company is around 23 times earnings, so that shows that there could be further upside. You can also look at metrics like operating cash flow, where the company looks attractive relative to its past self. So that's why this is a company that I'm keeping an eye on. If we do see a Biden win, if we do see a massive increase in the money supply, gold and gold stocks should continue to do very well. Now, this last stock I'm sure is going to surprise a lot of people for being on this list. That stock is GEO Group, ticker GEO, and they are a REIT, and they are one of the companies that operates private prisons in America and abroad. Now, I know you must be thinking I'm crazy for including this in this video because Joe Biden is clearly against private prisons. He has this on his own website. Biden will end the federal government's use of private prisons, and he will make clear that federal government will not use private facilities for any detention, including undocumented immigrants. So from his website, it's very clear that Joe Biden will target policies that try to end the private prison system. And now my thoughts on that is, as ethically questionable as private prisons are, the overwhelming odds are that they're not going anywhere anytime soon. This is something that happens pretty much every election cycle, where the politician says we're going to end the private prison system, and for one reason or another it never pans out. And so maybe this time will be different and we will actually see legislation pass which would end companies like GEO, or we might just keep the status quo, in which case I think GEO looks very undervalued. So right now they're trading at just 7 times earnings. They do have a lot of debt, which is the biggest risk for this company. And they pay a dividend of 15% right now. And the crazy thing is they're actually not planning on cutting the dividend. So the good part about a company like GEO, even though they have a lot of debt and they pay a high dividend, their customer is the US government and state governments and other countries' governments. So basically this company knows that they're going to get their payments on time every month. And so because of that, they can potentially afford to take on large debt and pay a high dividend because their cash flow is extremely reliable. Obviously, the stock doing well depends on what Joe Biden actually does to the private prison system, but in my opinion, the odds of a complete abolishment of private prisons doesn't seem very likely. And even if we do see Biden win the election, there is a chance we would see a Republican Senate. And in my opinion, the only way that there would be a chance that private prisons could be abolished is if we see a Democratic sweep. So in any other event, I really don't see how Biden would be able to completely get rid of the private prison system when, as of right now, there's really no substitute. And so this stock has been doing horrible year to date. They're now trading at under $9. And if we take a look, that's the lowest they've traded at in a long time. Going back to 2010, this is even lower than those levels. And this is something interesting with GEO stock because the biggest risk with GEO is political risk, obviously. And so what has happened with the stock historically is around election times, the stock falls a ton based on fears on government promises about ending the federal prison system. But after that, the stock tends to recover after those promises don't actually pan out. And we saw this back in 2016, where we saw the stock drop in 2016 and rallied all the way from under $15 to over $30 in 2017 when we saw Trump get the win. And even in the event of a Democrat winning, we saw in 2012 with the Obama win, the stock fell from $15 to $10 during that election year. And even after Obama won the second term, the stock again rallied to $25 a share. So in this event, it seems like the same thing is happening. The stock has been beaten down on political fears, even though they probably aren't very likely. And once the market figures this out, we should see the stock recover again nicely, which could give the potential for some nice gains along with the 15% dividend. So those are the 3 stocks that I'm looking to buy if Joe Biden wins the election. Let me know what you think on these stocks and if these industries will perform well in a Biden win. And let me know down in the comments if you want me to drop a video talking about stocks that could do well if we see Trump win another term. If I get enough comments, I will for sure put that video out. So that's it for now, and I'll see you on the next video.